Yeah, that's right. There's like a literal fucking chicken between his legs. How do you not want to read that? Don't fall. Don't fall. All the books. Hey. 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 Hi everyone, I'm Kelly. I have a Christmas book haul video for you today. I'm really excited to show the books that I got, but first, the elephant in the room. My overly shaggy hair. I know I need a haircut. Before I get into the specific books that I got for Christmas, I thought I would kind of explain the theme, if you will, of my Christmas books. So the way it's done in my family, I got to pick out my Christmas gifts, so I knew all the books I was getting, but it was still really exciting because I got a lot of fun books that I really wanted. As I was picking out what books I wanted, I really realized towards the end of this year how out of balance my reading had been. I had been so nonfiction heavy and so focused on like self-help and like kind of like good student mentality, like how to improve myself, how to be more productive, that I had turned reading into a chore. Like some of the fun and some of the magic of reading had just disappeared. So a lot of the books that I wanted were ones to just spark fun, that were just entertaining, or I would just like really devour or make me laugh or make me feel things and kind of get that balance back in my life of like non-productive reading just for the sake of reading. So that was kind of what the mindset I went into as I picked out these books. And I got the books from two different places. The first from betterworldbooks.com, which I highly recommend. They have a lot of great cheap books, a lot of used books, and every book you buy they donate one, so that's super awesome. And there was a couple of books that weren't quite right in my order, and they took care of me so well and actually refunded my money, so I was able to then get some books from Half Price Books. So yay! Alright, so let's get into it. First, we have a nice cool little edition. Oh, can you see it? Yes, okay. Of Mark Twain's A Connecticut Yankee at King Arthur's Court, in a nice Penguin English Library edition, mass market paperback, which I have fallen in love with. I love how compact they are. And this is kind of an older cover, but really illustrates well kind of what the book's about. And I hadn't really had this book on my radar until Ariel Bassett mentioned this on her podcast. And it just seemed really interesting about this like modern man, this 19th century man who ends up being a part of 6th century England, King Arthur's court. And he's just like, I'm gonna, make these people more efficient and add some industry and take all of them like modern ideas and implement it in this time period. And it just seems like a really interesting concept. So even though it's a less well-known classic of Mark Twain's, when I saw it at the store, I'm like, yeah, I'll pick it up. I'll give it a shot. Seems funny. This was kind of a surprise find. I wasn't looking for it, but I found 3 mass market paperbacks of Harlan Ellison's work. He's a very prolific science fiction author that's just not really talked about too much. For whatever reason, he just didn't get the same amount of attention as like Ray Bradbury and Asimov did. But he had some really interesting, thought-provoking stuff. So I was really excited to find these like nostalgic copies of them. And I want to show you the covers because they're all pretty nifty. So, oh my goodness. So cool. And then, like, what an eye catcher there. Hopefully it's focusing. Fingers crossed. And last but not least, so really cool stuff. Super excited to find it. And because these are nostalgic books, and by nostalgic, like before a certain time period, they didn't have ISBN numbers. You literally can't find these books unless you're in store and see them. So really nifty find. The next 2 books are the second and third books of I don't know what the trilogy is called. The first book is City of Stairs, which is in my best books of 2021 video that will hopefully be out by now. And I wanted to finish the series, and they just aren't at the library, and I never saw them in stores, which is such a bummer because I really love the first book. So I'm excited now to have the second and third book and be able to devour them at my leisure. The next one is Gloria O'Brien's History of the Future by A.S. King, and this is a young adult book. I've heard a lot of great things about A.S. King and their writing, and so I thought I'd pick one up and give it a shot, and I wanted to pick one that wasn't at my local library. And the synopsis kind of seemed interesting for this book. She gains the power to see anyone's infinite past and future, and what she sees ahead for humanity is terrifying. So she makes it a mission to record everything that's coming, hoping her notes will make a difference. This seemed interesting, and I thought I'd give it a shot. Since I've gotten older and because I've read so much, it's been harder for me to find young adult books that I really resonate with, because oftentimes their world building is a bit shoddy and I just can't suspend my disbelief. But I know there's some really good young adult books out there, so I'm going to give this one a shot. Fingers crossed. The next one is, I think, the only nonfiction book that I got, and it's called The Great Spring, Writing Zen and This Zigzag Life by Natalie Goldberg. Alright, can we focus, please? Please and thank you. Maybe. We'll see. Maybe it's just going to be a bunch of blurry books. Who knows? But anyway, I love Natalie Goldberg. I love her writing, and I'm slowly reading everything she's ever published. And so this one isn't like a productivity read as much as it's just like good for the soul. Like, I really, having read so many of her books, feel like I know Natalie and just want to see what she's up to and what her thoughts are. And yeah, I just love her stuff. So this one, maybe nonfiction, but it's just a good time. Next, we have, this is the second book. Again, I don't know what the trilogy is called, or I don't know if it's a trilogy. I can't think of what it's called for the overall book series. But the first book is, where art thou? Oh, yes. So the first book is The War of Don Manuel's Nether Parts, which was a hoot. Let me tell you, I picked it up randomly. Such a good time. Very reminiscent of 100 Years of Solitude. It's got that magical realism element. It takes place in like this, I don't think it's named, South American country. Really good. By Louis de Beniers. Probably butchered that, oh well. But anyway, so this is the second book, called Senior Vivo and the Coca Lord. And again, I had so much fun reading the first one that I wanted to read the rest, and I can't find it anywhere. So it was great to be able to find it on Better World Books and add it to my reading collection. This is one of the ones that was a problem order because I actually wanted a different cover that was so good. But funny enough, this cover and the cover I was looking at actually have the same ISBN, which is why there was the mix-up. So weird. I don't know how I'm going to get the cover I want now. But anyway, the content's the same. The next two I got because I read a different book with like 3 of Colette's short stories. And for those who don't know, Colette is this French female author that wrote a lot. It was really popular, and I think she started out as being like a ghostwriter for her husband and then was able to like make it on her own. And I thought her short stories that I have read were really interesting, really reminiscent of like learning about that time period and like woman's place in that time and what people were thinking about. And she just had really beautiful prose. And the cincher was the introduction. Normally introductions bore me. This introduction that kind of gave a snapshot of like the major parts of her life. Oh my god, I'm so fascinated with her. I probably will read a biography of her at one point or at some point because she lived a life. But anyway, so these next two books are hers. I got the Vagabond novel of hers. Ooh, 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 maybe. And then the next one is the complete Claudette, the stories that inspired the film. And so it's Claudette at school, Claudette in Paris, Claudette married, and Claudette and Annie. And so these are fiction, but based off of Colette's childhood, from what I understand. So I'm excited to read it. And then we have A Little Something Different, 14 Viewpoints, One Love Story by Sandy Hall. This is another recommendation from Ariel Bassett's podcast, Books Unbound, which I'd highly recommend. And I was so intrigued by this premise of a love story, but with a twist of these different viewpoints. Like, you actually don't get the viewpoints of the two people who fall in love. You get like the best friend, you get like a bench, you get a squirrel that are like observing this love story unfold. And I was just like, that's good. I'm intrigued. Because I like romance books, but I'm very particular about the kind of romance and how the romance is represented. So this was just like a really unique concept that I'm interested to dive into, and hopefully it'll be good. And then the last three books I won't really talk about too much because there's not much to say about them. This last year I really got into K-dramas, Korean TV shows, and so I'm like, for funsies, I think it'd be fun to learn some Korean. So I got three Korean like kids books to start me out. So we have, and I don't know what the titles are because they're in Korean, but Fat Man Crying, Child Toots, and this cool little book where you can dress up the kids. So, I mean, come on, how could I not? I mean, like, look at back the Kid That Toots book. Look at this back. Look at that. Yeah, that's right. There's like a literal fucking chicken between his legs. How do you not want to read that? What can I say? So those are the books I got for Christmas. I'm so excited about them. You know, get me back on track with some fun and magic and reading goodness for 2022. And let me know down below if you've read any of these books, or you're interested in reading any of these books, or any cool books you got for Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!